The night was silent, broken only by hurried footsteps and distant sirens. Across the street, a dark brown dog, thin and with eyes filled with inexplicable sadness, stood motionless under the yellow glow of a streetlight. He was sitting right at the entrance of a busy hospital. His eyes were fixed on something no one could see. Security guards tried to shoo him away a few times, but he kept coming back to the same spot, as if waiting for someone. Rain began to pour, heavy and relentless, soaking the ground and the dog's fur, but he didn't move. Patients and visitors started noticing the animal, whispering among themselves, "Was he abandoned here? Or whose dog is this?" But no one knew that this wait carried a story of loyalty that would change everything. 3 days earlier, an ambulance had arrived in a rush at the hospital's emergency room. Inside was an elderly man named Joachim, unconscious. He was well known in the neighborhood for his kindness, but mostly for his inseparable companion, Max, a mutt who followed him everywhere. That fateful day, Joachim had suffered a severe heart attack while walking Max in the park. When paramedics arrived, Joachim was quickly taken away, but Max was left behind, confused and not understanding why his owner was leaving. The dog ran after the ambulance through several streets until it disappeared from sight. Max spent hours wandering, sniffing and searching until he finally arrived at the hospital. There, he sat down, certain his owner was inside and would somehow return for him. Days passed. Max didn't leave his spot, refusing food and water offered by some passers-by. He only stared fixedly at the automatic doors, waiting. On the 5th day, something changed. Max began to whimper softly, a sound that broke the hearts of those who passed by. He was thinner, and his eyes were glazed with exhaustion. Inside the hospital, Joachim's condition remained critical. A nurse named Anna began to notice the dog. Moved by curiosity and her love for animals, she tried to approach him. She offered him a piece of bread, but Max only sniffed it and went back to staring at the doors. Anna decided to investigate. She asked patients and visitors about the dog. Finally, a woman explained, "That's Mr. Joachim's dog. They're inseparable. He must be waiting for his owner." Anna's heart sank. Joachim was in a coma, and doctors weren't sure if he would survive. Max remained steadfast, but visibly weaker. The rain didn't let up, and the biting wind forced everyone to seek shelter. Everyone except Max. He stayed there, a symbol of loyalty that no one could ignore. On the 7th day, Joachim's condition deteriorated rapidly. Doctors informed the family that he might not survive the night. Meanwhile, Max was barely holding on. He lay on the sidewalk, too weak to stand. Anna, overwhelmed with emotion, asked the doctors for permission to bring Max to Joachim. "Maybe it'll help," she argued. After much hesitation, the team agreed. Anna carried Max in her arms and brought him inside. When the dog saw Joachim lying in the hospital bed, something incredible happened. Max, despite his frail condition, gathered enough strength to approach and place his head on his owner's hand. Joachim, who hadn't responded to anything for days, moved his fingers slightly. The machines began to register a slight improvement in his vital signs. The doctors were stunned. Max whimpered softly, and everyone in the room felt they were witnessing something extraordinary. That same night, Joachim opened his eyes for the first time in days. He was weak, but his first word was a whisper. Max. The dog, lying beside the bed, wagged his tail ever so slightly in response. Doctors called it an emotional miracle. Max's presence had somehow given Joachim the strength to fight. From that moment on, the hospital allowed Max to visit Joachim every day, until he was strong enough to be discharged. When they finally left the hospital together, the scene was breathtaking. Patients, doctors, and nurses gathered at the door to applaud. Max and Joachim walked out side by side, as they had always been. This story reminds us that love and loyalty have no limits. Max waited for 7 days, enduring hunger, cold, and exhaustion, just to be by the side of the person he loved. Sometimes, what truly saves us isn't medicine or science, but unconditional love, Anna said, tears streaming down her face. And you? Have you ever stopped to think about the impact an animal's love can have on our lives? Max and Joaquin are proof that even in the darkest moments, hope never dies.